We're not.
Is it not?
It is not. I don't see it on YouTube.
Is it live now?
Not that I see. Let me cancel my YouTube and
Yeah,
re.
it is live now. I don't know what button I didn't have clicked on. I don't know
There
if
we
you
go.
heard me. Good morning. Welcome in to another episode of Good Morning NASDAQ. I am your host, Dom, with cohorts and co-host Kyle and Huddy. Welcome in, my friends.
Good morning.
Welcome
Good
all
morning.
of you in to another beautiful day, the last day of November, as we wrap up this cold month and head into colder times. But at least we still have Christmas to look forward to, and after that, it's just ice fishing season. But yeah, I'm happy to move into December, into winter trading. It looks like the market agrees. We had some wild 500% plus movers yesterday with VVOS, CYTO. We've got gappers this morning running on no news just because they are low float. We'll talk through them here in a moment. If you are not already subscribed to the channel, it's as easy as a click of a button. It's free as far as I'm concerned, and it would really help us and support the movement for all this free content we're trying to provide you guys with. Also, make sure that you have hit that thumbs up button. You guys are doing a phenomenal job already with that. I'll check in here in like 10 or 15 minutes if I think you are lacking in that capacity. We got Joseph, Oliver, Ashish, JJ. Welcome in, everybody. Thomas says, liking the like for Christmas. It's never a bad time to show that Christmas spirit. All right. How's everyone doing? I got my
Uh,
coffee. Kyle has his eye crusts.
yeah, for real. How do you got?
What's how you got?
Huddy hopefully got a good night of sleep.
He did.
That's yeah. That's a great point. How many hours had he? 8, 9, 10?
10 to 7.
That sounds lovely.
That's great.
I'm jealous.
I accidentally got up at 4.
Wow.
I go to bed early. All right. Welcome in, everyone. The views are going up. We'll let you guys filter in, and let's start talking about gappers.
All right. What do we got?
My list has to be wrong because it has Mim at. Let me see here. Is it right?
What? Let me look. Let me look up the gappers here.
Mine says the minimum is at $1.82 on my scanner, but I know that's wrong. So
That's wrong. Yeah.
all right,
We have,
first one up on the day, and I'll even show you guys the scan this morning. This is what momentum can do to small caps, where one or two or three big runners can all of a sudden trigger a lot, like a buying frenzy. People just want to buy the next thing. They want to be a part of the next 100% mover, the next low float runner, whatever it is. And it can happen fast. You saw it yesterday. Wasn't really all that jam-packed of a day until VVOS started going 20, 30, 40. And then all of a sudden CMND is trying to go. YOSH is trying to go. And everyone's hitting the scanner for anything sub a million float. And this morning, very similar. You can see we have a 600% runner, 136% runner, 70, 60, 58, 50. And you can't really see right here, but if you take a look at the very end, you can see the floats. And what leads the pack? The one like 6 or 7 down on the list is the first one that's over a million, and that's at 10 million. A lot of Ks, 700K, 800K, 600K, 400K. People are out there searching for the tiny floats. So let's start with MINM. Mover from like $1 all the way up towards 8 so far. I was unable to find any news on this one, which makes sense considering people are just looking to buy the next low float.
Yeah. The news is his low float. That's the news.
And that's good enough. That certainly is good enough. They are a communication equipment company. 1.03 million float. Offering risk is pretty low. I do see an S1 offering. I don't know if Huddy wants to go into that, if that means anything. 25 million final deal size at 250. Is that something they can exercise, or Huddy?
I'm
Sure.
looking at it.
All right. But on the chart, you can see a pretty dead daily chart until you get into this $8 area all the way up towards 13. Actually, really good volume on those days where the stock spiked from 2 all the way up towards 14. A lot of wick days after that as well. So pretty big resistance kind of coming up from 8 to 14. So not surprised that it topped out at what today? 8. On a 600% move into it. Resistance tends to matter when you have to spike a long way to get to it. So maybe, again, another short into resistance type idea, or the stock bases and pushes to the next level of resistance. But with a float this small, anything can really happen, as we saw yesterday with VVOS, if I could type. Pretty insane move from the pre-market to the open to the afternoon squeeze. You do know shorts are probably a little more on top of it going into this morning, probably feeling less likely to get aggressive, less likely to get over patient, being down on positions. Does that come into play today on stuff like MINM, Kyle?
Yeah, I don't think many shorts want to attack this. Well, I shouldn't say that. They do, but like you said, Dom, I think they're a little bit more cautious. I think this move is mainly longs, because again, a bunch of longs see VVOS yesterday and are like, oh my gosh, I missed the huge move. Like, I need to catch the next one. And so what do? They just chase it. And it's easy to do pre-market when it's also more liquid. So I think that's mostly M&M.
I'll just call it M&M.
Yeah, I'm just calling M&M. Granted, that doesn't mean it can't squeeze higher. Like, yeah, and it could totally see 14. It could totally see higher than that. And I think shorts know that. So, part of me likes the idea of getting short because I think it's mostly longs, but I definitely do not forget the fact that it is a 1 million float. So very low, very risky. And the fact that it can squeeze, like just because it's up 600% does not mean it cannot go higher, because it can. So I am not exactly sure. I think it's a matter of seeing how the price action goes out the open, seeing how weak or strong it is. And I think from there, you'll get your direction within the first, 15 to 30 minutes of the market open. So.
Yeah. Just did a little bit of look into that company, and, I think what's first important is to kind of be aware of the field of play and what's been going on. And that's what kind of Dom went over, which is we have these low float spikers. And when you have something like VVOS, you almost expect there to be gap ups the next day. And usually the gap ups that then follow are not as quality gap ups. Like, it's very often that these smaller companies, these small cap, they know when there's momentum in the market. They know when they have a big runner, okay, let's get a press release ready. Let's release the press and let's get people to buy our stock. So MINM kind of falls under that scope of like crappier version of a gapper, mainly. And Kyle's right with the 1 million float, still have to be careful, but the PR here doesn't even exist. There's no press release. This is up 600% on air. So this definitely falls under that reactive type of gapper that I would expect from today, and I expect it to be much weaker. As far as locates go, they're expensive. So you already have shorts, as Kyle said, kind of in a tepid state of mind with anything that's a low float that's up 600%. But, the difference between MINM already is, VVOS, they had a real PR about their oral sleep drug. MINM has nothing. VVOS had plentiful cheap locates available. MINM has expensive locates available. So you can start to see where the players are actually going to position themselves. A lot of the, fresher short blood is probably going to avoid MINM after getting squeezed on VVOS. But ultimately, MINM has more reason to fall apart on this gap up than VVOS ever did. Does that mean it, so in my opinion, I think odds favor this failing. Whereas yesterday I said, VVOS, I probably want to avoid that. That's a 1 million float, approval of their drug, like that all made it just kind of like a watch for me. So I think this is built a bit differently. I wouldn't be surprised if this doesn't go much further and falls apart and doesn't hold 600% gains, but of course can do something wacky at market open during the chaos. So always got to be careful if actually trying to play it.
Yeah, I think that kind of goes for any low float, recent reverse split, any of these random plays with no news that we're probably going to talk about here today. And I wouldn't be surprised to see more pop up throughout the morning. Generally speaking, when you have either sector momentum or a flurry of tickers that come in that all fit a similar theme, The first move is the best one. The second move is a little bit not as good. The third one has some momentum, and then it's short-lived. And it's really important to understand that going into it. If you are someone that's buying this type of momentum and doing a good job of it, not trying to hit the home run on every single one. We talked about it last night on Wine Wednesday, how it's very difficult to predict a black swan or be there for the entire move of one of these wild runners. And just kind of understand that going forward, that not every one of these is going to go 500%. And it's more likely that they're going to go a lot less than that as we keep getting more and more of them, as shorts are less interested in getting squeezed. And like Kyle said, if it's all buyers pushing a stock up, at some point they will trip over themselves. And if there's no one to squeeze, very difficult to keep the stock up. All right. Next one on the list, AGRI.
Not a low float.
Another low float, another one.
Another one.
Don't think I saw news here either. Let me check. Nope. They did provide a letter to their shareholders, though, 8 days ago. They regained compliance a month ago. Let's see if that's a reverse split. Boom, reverse split a month ago. Okay, another pretty, what do you call it? A theme that's been going on in the market. Recent reverse splits makes their share count lower, makes their float tiny. And this one has a decent amount of potential dilution. Let me go through that right now. If Kyle, you want to talk through the chart.
Let me take a look here. I looked at it earlier and I immediately exited out because I was like, oh, no low float.
What's the ticker?
AGRI. I mean, intraday and the pre-market pretty choppy. Went from 1 to 2, then back down to 150, then up to 250, and now we're at 2 or 180 again. So quite the choppy move, not nearly as smooth or straightforward as MINM. Daily chart wise, this is extremely beaten down. It makes me think there definitely was a reverse split involved. Because I doubt it was a low float at $400 when they IPO'd. Has a few runs here and there, but ultimately it just, again, top left to bottom right, just slowly dwindling. Has had actually a few spikes, back in August, September, and October, and none of them actually worked out too well. One actually didn't work out well at all and had 120 million in volume. I don't know if the reverse split's changing that, what it actually was, but now, I don't know. I was about to say, I could see this thing crapping itself, but it is only up 94%. It is not a, MINM that's up 700. So quite a big difference there. But again, I just, how do you explain it perfectly? I just don't, if you're a long looking to chase or buy any of these, I just don't think your day, I mean, I guess your day could be today, but your day was really pre-market, in my opinion. Your time, I think, is past, in my opinion, or should have been yesterday afternoon with like CDMN. I longed that, but I missed it. We talked about it on Wine Wednesday, but yeah, that's my thoughts.
Yeah, I don't think there's much past that. They do have an active ATM. Recent reverse split, not up as much as the others, so maybe does get some push just because it doesn't have that flashy 300, 400, 500% on it. I will be avoiding pretty much anything we're talking about on these day ones this morning. If I didn't catch a pre-market move, I don't really want to mess around with these low floats on, the backside of the momentum. We'll see if it continues. If it does, you could have Firework Friday. But I'm going to stick to any... Why do you laugh at everything I say?
I don't know. It's just funny.
So we shall see. Another interesting note, just because I was watching Moon Market last night. I saw he had a video. He was quick to post it about VVOS. And if you miss it, don't you fret, because there's another one ready to go. And it was AMPE, and he posted it in after hours, so there wasn't any pumping available. And I just made a mental note just to look at it this morning, and we got to move from 3 to 4. Wow. A tiny float, no news. But he also did mention, they had an ATM. If they use it, the dips are great opportunities to get in for future PRs. So just keep an eye on people who have big followings, other chat rooms that have many more subscribers that are just alerting low float runners to the long side. Know what you own, know what you're trading, do the due diligence. I'm not saying this can't go higher or run today, but there is a reason behind this one. It's not completely random like others.
Was that a paraphrase, Dom, or was that an exact quote
Which one?
from him? They have an ATM.
He doesn't
So,
think he'll affect it, but if they do come in and it does get beaten down, it's a great buying opportunity for the dips for future PRs.
oh god.
So AGRI is interesting because they had that reverse split, and in that reverse split they definitely like changed the conversion prices to a lot of their outstanding dilution. So that's definitely something to look into if trying to either long or short that.
For sure, Jim Bob.
For sure.
Was there any other big ones? What the heck? VFS is on the scanner now. Just
VFL.
barely. Just making a little bit of moves. Nothing.
It's like that thing's definitely not low flow anymore. But
Was it ever? Oh yeah, it was. It was a higher float, but it traded like a low float.
yeah, because I think insiders own a ton of shares. They definitely don't anymore.
You think they got rid of them?
Not all of them, but I mean, look at the daily chart. They unloaded plenty, in my opinion.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. We got. That's pretty much the list for gappers. Everything else has really gone up and gone down. ADTX was on that list. Like I said, it's difficult to find the next big runner. MINM was one of probably 5 or 6 stocks this morning that was moving from 4 to 7 a.m. It just happened to be the one that caught the most attention, had the most juice, and it went. Very difficult to predict that, but very easy if you buy every single one to lose on a lot of them. So keep that in mind for future when you get excited on a day, an afternoon, when you see a crazy runner. Still try to stick to some sort of system, some sort of blueprint, some sort of process that you can track over time. The last thing you want to do, which I've been guilty of in the past, is just buy anything with a low float into the afternoon, swing it overnight, buy them in pre-market, whatever it is, and then get yourself in a situation where like, what am I doing?
Why am I here?
But all right, that's pretty much the gappers. Let's see what anyone did. Huddy swing short RDHL. I think he said no. I don't
We
believe
wish.
anyone.
I was
Any one of
just
us.
I was just scared of VVOS and like what it might do to every other runner. Like I think if VVOS gapped up to 70, everything would have gapped up, and that made me very scared to short the
Right.
last pop into close. But
Had
you're on the trigger.
I didn't tell anyone this, but had in the chat room, but had VVOS not squeezed and like there was just an average, it was just an average day. Like I had an order sitting at RDHL too short overnight, risking the highs. And the moment I saw, RDHL coming back with VVOS, at $40, I was like, it's the same thing. I'm like, dude, if these things keep going, like RDHL is like target number one to have any shorts left to get squeezed. I'm like, it's just not worth it, and so I canceled the order. Turns out that was actually the last best price you can get, but hindsight's 2020. So anyway,
Okay. What is your opinion on CYTO long? I personally don't have one because I don't know what pattern that would be. You now have a stock that went from 20 cents to 47 to break out, then went all the way to $1 in after hours. So what is that, a 5xer? And now having a nice little 20% gap up. For me, this is way past the point of a long. I would have been much happier buying on the 47 area. Draw your lines. The breakout level held perfectly in the afternoon. 1, 2, 3, 4 times. Really nice strong close. After hours runner. Right now bounced off of green red and kind of bouncing really nicely. Kind of mid-range, not up enough where I'm like, this has to crash at the open, and not low enough to where I'm like, I think I want to buy it. So risk reward kind of sucks. Conviction would kind of suck for me. So not to say it can't go higher, but I am rooting for it to go higher. So I won't be touching that to the long side today. I think the play has come and gone. And I think, again, that's another really good lesson is, we always say get in where you fit in. There's usually very small edges with the patterns that we are trading. And it means you have to be there at very specific points in time to get the good risk reward, to get the high conviction type of setups. And you need to be able to be aware of when you're feeling emotional. And I'm not saying you can't buy this at 78 and it goes to $1, but if you do that 100 times, what do your odds look like and what does your P&L look like? And that's the way I try to approach it. And to me, the move is come and gone. If I was in from the 47s, I would have been already out of this trade into after hours or into this morning gap up. So if that's my thought process of if I had a great entry, would I ever be buying up here? In that case, still no. So I shouldn't be doing it if I don't have a position.
And I will preface that, like, I think a lot of people did well in RDHL, where it's like the real buy on RDHL was 70 cents, but there was a world where I think people got in like right at market open and had some pretty tight risk to be a part of that move. So, I think that's the whole question is CYTO going to do the exact same thing as RDHL, where you have, kind of similar daily charts, similar volume profiles, and you're having this like, a smidge of a gap up in the pre's. So I think at the end of the day, what you have to be ultimately aware of is how much of a chase this really is. And that's what Dom's trying to enunciate there, or said really well. That the real entry is much closer to 50 cents than it is at 78 for any kind of tight risk reward and high conviction that you're risking the key level. And on top of that, now you have an environment where everything's gapping down. So is CYTO really going to continue on their compliance PR, or is 25 to 78 kind of the top of its range? And you're putting yourself right into the aim of this, what could be the highs that it never breaks out from, or it could do RDHL, but you got to assume that the dealer doesn't have blackjack every time.
Exactly. We'll do a couple more questions before we do that. I am seeing the like count is not up to standard, or up to code, if you will. We got 140 view in here. We are going to need to see that at least at 70. Just assume from now on that that's the baseline standard. If you're in here and you see the likes under 70, do what you can to get it to 70. Text a couple friends. Start a group chat of people that are just subscribers that don't even watch, that have to sign up, load it up and hit the like button. That's all we ask. It's a free show. We show up every single morning. All we ask you get that like to 50%. I don't think it's too much, Kyle. Do you?
No. Start a Facebook group.
Start a Facebook group.
Yeah.
The likes of Clover.
Yeah. Join your local community and hit that like button.
Okay. We talked about CYTO. Dom, will you be looking for a potential first green day on RDHL tomorrow or Monday? I think ideally we get the low to mid ones for a bounce. Yeah, every big runner, and that's why first green day is one of my favorite setups, because so much has to happen for it to take place, and that usually means you're getting a high quality setup if you wait for an impressive overextended run. If you have that backside move start, if shorts have been squeezed and then they want to be patient on the backside, and you also have a stock doing 50, 60, 100, 200 million volume, all the pieces are there with RDHL. So I definitely will be watching this one as it has its backside move, and just praying I get the opportunity to take a trade on it down the road. SMFL or SNGX, what do you think? I don't like that question. I don't think anything. If you guys have any thoughts, they're just day one gappers. If I don't want to trade the best of the best day one gappers, certainly don't want to trade the poop of the poop. You guys have any thoughts on them? I just don't see anything here.
Another low float.
Yeah.
No. Again, I just think that we're in this low float mania. Like we've talked about with MINM and AGRI. I just think, maybe you're going to get one that's the hot runner of the day, but trying to guess that one is kind of like a lottery ticket long term. MINM has kind of already been the lottery winner, and it's only pre-market, which goes back to what Huddy and I were saying, which is like, yes, this can go higher, but there's a lot of odds here that this might just be at $5 or $4 by the end of the day. I just if you're a beginner or even slightly battling profitability, like this is not it, in my opinion. Like I haven't once seen a profitable strategy. Again, they're probably out there, and if they're out there, please contact me and let me know so I can learn it. But like this kind of sector Momo is not, at least for low floats, is like my least favorite sector, for the reason it just doesn't. A lot happens, but for a lot of profitable traders that I know, it doesn't do much for people, right?
It's so hard to be consistent on day one, even without the low float sector. Like,
right,
just guessing which one. That's why we like daily chart patterns, because we have we have some grounds to play off of to predict what should happen based off of how much a stock can move, how much volume it did on the first few days, how much range it had. When you're looking at a stock for 30 minutes in pre-market or an hour before the open, it's hard to say, okay, because I was watching minimum Eminem
That
at
was crazy.
190s, and I was like, this could be the one today. But if I had bought there at 2, I would have been out by 3. I'm not sitting there going, I think it can go to 9 this morning, which it just hit, and now it's at 950. We're about to hit 1,000% on the day.
Right.
It's so hard to do that, but like it's so much easier to make 50% on a trade on a multi-day runner than it is a random one-off day one. And sure, a lot of stock, because you see so many that have all the makings, right? You know, SXTC is one this morning. Chinese name, recent reverse split in the last month, tiny float, all the makings of that should fit this sector, right? But what does it do this morning? It has a little pop and fades off. Like it's so hard to find the one that can run and will run because so many fail that do have the criteria for it. And at the end of the day, you need so many factors. Like, I mean, MINM, there's probably some shorts in it so far this morning. We'll see what it looks like at the open.
Right.
But really hard to predict that stuff. It's sad because that's where every beginner starts, because that's where the most movement is that you see, the day one gappers.
Right.
But we're here to try to help you realize that the multi-day runners, the RDHLs, to the long side, to the short side, to the back side, there's room to make a bunch of money. CYTOs, there's room to make a bunch of money. That, every now and then day ones offer good opportunities, but at the end of the day, our bread and butter really comes from which ones of these day ones hold up, that we don't trade for multiple days until they really set up.
I thought you were totally going to go from the front side to the back side, to the windows, to the walls.
To the wall. I can do it again.
But spot on, Dom. I completely agree.
All right, everyone. Thank you for participating today. A lot of questions. Bring that type of energy into tomorrow. We love having more than enough questions to go over so we can handpick ones that we think can benefit you guys the most. As always, we'll be back tomorrow morning, 8:45 a.m. If you want more of this feels like a good time to join Clover. If you missed out on the discount last week for Thanksgiving, link in the description. Get yourself 7 days for $7, less than a cup of coffee at Starbucks if you get a triple espresso macchiato, frozen espresso marpuccino. Yeah, it's a great time to get in there. We do multiple webinars a week. Kyle, you got one today.
I do.
And we have a ton of fun in there. It should be getting a little more rowdy as we get more runners, more gappers, more to talk about, more lessons to learn. So excited if you guys do join. If not, we will see you first thing in the morning, every morning, right here, 8:45 a.m. on the Clover Trading YouTube channel for Good Morning NASDAQ. Thank you to our co-host. Let's have a phenomenal day. We'll see you guys first thing tomorrow morning.
Peace, everybody.